Holy shit, chapter 249 of JJK has dropped. The leaks came early tonight, and the chapter is just absolutely bonkers. For my anime onlys, get the hell out of here. For anyone that hasn't been here before, I can't actually show the panel, so I'm just gonna have to describe what happened. And we pick up in a flashback with what was going on with Akotsu and Kinjaku a few chapters ago. So Akotsu beheads Kinjaku, and then all of the cursed spirits inside of Geto start pouring out. Akotsu calls Rika and they just start tearing through these cursed spirits, but then some of them start like picking up Kinjaku's severed head, and we see Kinjaku add the rule that we saw in the previous chapter about Megami now having the rights to start the merger. This next part's a bit hard to decipher because the translations are very rough at this point, but Kinjaku is essentially monologuing saying that like, of course I would have had a backup plan, an insurance plan, referring to passing it over to Sukuna with the new rule. He's saying something about like using the culling game as a foundation for the merger, so something like that. It's at this point that amongst the outpouring of curses from Kinjaku's body, we see this fetal version of Tengen, and it rockets away. So it is heading towards Sukuna. This is the thing that Sukuna ended up eating in the last chapter. And Kinjaku kind of gives his last words, saying that like, I won't say that I didn't enjoy the last 1,000 years, and I'm glad that he was the last one I got to play with. And I think it's talking about Takaba and not Akotsu, but it's not entirely clear because these are rough translations. And then his final words are, now it's your turn. We then see a panel of Akotsu driving his blade straight into Kinjaku's brain, and then we flash forward back to the present with Akotsu staring down Sukuna. We're then privy to some internal monologue from Akotsu, who is looking at Sukuna's recently regenerated hand, and he's saying that his reverse curse technique output is coming back, so it won't be long before his domain expansion is online. He also notices that Higuruma was defeated, and he feels bad that he wasn't here sooner. But he reveals that the plan was they wanted Rika to be there when Kinjaku was killed so that Rika could deal with the massive outpouring of curses. We then get a couple pages of Akotsu stabbing in with his sword, but Sukuna grabs it, and it appears as if he's using slashes like in the palm of his hand to deflect the blade and have it not harm him as he grabs it. In Akotsu's inner monologue, we know that he's struggling with guilt because he wanted to be the one to end Kinjaku. He feels bad that he wasn't here, thinking this is all his fault. So he says, no more excuses. And he casts his domain. We then get this beautiful double spread of like all of this rubble, and amongst the rubble are hundreds of swords sticking out of the ground everywhere, and inside is Akotsu and Sukuna. And the translation says this domain is called Authenticity Mutual Love, but I'm assuming it's more like authentic love or something like that. Sukuna immediately casts Hollow Wicker Basket, but Akotsu goes in for the strike, and then he uses Thin Icebreaker, Uro's curse technique, so it appears as if maybe he has access to all of the curse techniques he's copied in here. Akotsu then says that in this domain, I'm gonna finish everything. So we're then privy to some internal monologue from Sukuna, and he's trying to basically piece together the strategy that they're using against him. And again, these are really rough translations, so bear with me here. But essentially he's saying that from Megami's memory, he knows that Akotsu's curse technique is copy, and he thinks that the technique imbued in this domain expansion is Angel's curse technique, which is forcing him to use Hollow Wicker Basket, and then he's going to basically use unlimited versions of the other curse techniques he's copied in here. And then in the next panel, we see that Yuji is also inside of this domain, and Sukuna's internal monologue continues saying, from that brat's hits, they're going to try and pull me off of Megami's body. So what? I think this is confirmation that Yuji has some sort of soul manipulation or soul cleave, no pun intended there, and that is going to try and extract Sukuna away from Megami. And Sukuna says, good for you, you finally have a role. And that's where the chapter freaking ends! And then what I think is the editor's note at the end of the chapter says, the new and the old main character going to battle. Ooh, this chapter is mid, y'all. You gotta look it up. You gotta look at these pages. Holy shit, we got Yuta's domain expansion. I got a lot of thoughts, but I need to let this process, and I need to wait for more official translations, or at least better translations. But holy shit, y'all. Let me know your thoughts.